Be seated, please.
Yep, that's a mouthful.
I got it all in.
You did, beautifully.
Just while they get the defendant on the set, I'll get this for.
Everybody. I believe we're ready to go on the defendants in the court. Any issues with the state before we sue for jurors?
No, Your Honor.
And for the defense?
Judge, we received a piece of evidence this morning, and we're just looking over right now. If I could just make an inquiry, if Mr. Boyne is going to try to introduce his first thing, or could,
yes, I'm going to try to introduce the first thing.
if that's the case, we might ask for just a couple of minutes to finish looking through this piece of evidence.
We can't do the bit, so look quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, just for the record, I did. It's if you look at the discovery notice, March 29, 2016, hard copies and on disc.
I'm gonna let them look. I just
Oh
want,
no, Your Honor, we were discussing it earlier about when I may give it to them and things like that.
I just want them to have a fast look because the jurors are jumping at the bit.
Can you stop trying? Chuck, which one is that? March what?
29.
Okay.
Yep.
The certificate from what?
No, the actual records were March 29.
The handwritten ones.
We gave you a hard copy of it and put it on disc.
The handwritten ones are not there in the handbook.
No, exactly. That's what. Yes, I know. We put everything in like legal size paper. So we just followed. We gave you a hard copy. That's what we're packaging. Hard copy.
All right. Hey, Chuck, what number is this going to be? You have to stick with the,
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I haven't. Just three. Do we have three of them?
Very good.
I guess I could ask this, perhaps we could object to admission of the evidence, subject to an opportunity to maybe make further objection on the record later.
Huh?
When he tenders it, if I could just be allowed to object.
When he tenders it, you can do anything you want.
But reserve the right to make some further objection after we've had a chance to look through it more closely. For purposes of the record. For purposes of preserving the objection.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think I vaguely understand that. We'll see how it goes. Bring in the jury.
That's all right for the jury.
Come over. Well, obviously we'll wait. I just want to make sure they haven't been lost. But
Joe, you want to? Yeah.
All right.
Thanks. Good morning. Good to see all of y'all. I didn't know it could get cold here. I'll have to send over some sweaters or something. It's beautiful weather, just beautiful. We're ready to resume the trial. Mr. Boring, call your next witness.
State would call Melanie Gibson.
Let's see.
Ma'am, would you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name and spelling it so the court reporter spells it correctly?
Yes, I'm Melanie Gibson, MELONYGIBSON.
And Ms. Gibson, just tell them generally where do you live?
I live in Fayetteville, Georgia.
Okay. Where do you work right now?
I work at the Little Apron Academy in Cobb County.
How long have you worked there?
I've been there 3.5 years.
Okay. Could you tell the jury what Little Apron Academy is?
Little Apron Academy is an employer-sponsored child development center. We provide the child care services for the Home Depot associates.
And what is your job there with Little Apron Academy?
So I am the executive director. I supervise approximately 90 staff and help to ensure programs are running well in the center.
And when you've been at Little Apron Academy, have you always had that title?
I have, yes, I have.
Okay, and before you were there, did you work in childcare or things of that nature?
Oh, yes, 30 years.
Okay. During that, while you've been there at the Little Apron Academy, could you describe it to the jury how your facility is situated and basically the people that you service?
Yes, we serve Home Depot associates, which is the employees for the Home Depot. We have 2 floors, so we're on a main floor, and then we have a bottom floor. And we serve children from 6 weeks through pre-K. And then we also offer child development services for school-age children, 5 through about 12 years old.
Now, at this location, is it strictly for people who are involved with Home Depot?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And your building, is it near any other buildings related to Home Depot?
Yes, we are located on the corporate site for the Home Depot.
Okay. And what road is that on, and do you know the address?
Yes, it is 2455 Paces Ferry Road.
Okay. And is that in Cobb County, Georgia?
That is in Cobb County.
Okay. Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury a little bit about the layout of your facility, and then we'll talk. I'm going to show you some things in a little bit just to get you to tell the jury where some locations are, okay?
Okay, so we have 2 basic entrances for our building. One is located directly off the parking deck, and that's mostly for parents that work at the main building. And then the other is primarily for non-associates, visitors, grandparents, people who are not full-time Home Depot associates. We're on 2 floors. The top floor is infants and toddlers, and the bottom floor is 2 years old through pre-K.
I'm going to turn your attention. Are you familiar with a child that used to be in y'all's care named Cooper Harris?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you're familiar that back on June 18, 2014, he passed away?
Yes, I am.
Okay. How long had Cooper been with y'all before June 18, 2014?
Cooper had been in the center since infancy.
Okay. Now, as far as, do you know many of the parents that come in?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Did you know Cooper's parents? And if so, do you remember their names?
Yes, Ross, Justin, and Leanna Harris.
Okay. And by everything you could see, did you interact with them at Little Apron Academy?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did y'all ever hang out, do anything outside of Little Apron Academy, or was it strictly within the daycare?
Strictly within the Child Development Center.
Okay. And with your interaction with them, did you notice anything out of the ordinary between the Mr. Harris, his wife, or the child?
No. Dad was more gregarious. Mom was more reserved.
Okay. And did they appear to act, as far as you could tell, appropriately with Cooper?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now, I guess over that time he was there, did you become familiar with Cooper?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Could you describe him for the jury as far as, especially in the month or so leading up to June 18, 2014?
Cooper was an affable child. He was a talker, calm nature, very easy to get along, just a normal, soon-to-be 2-year-old.
During the time, what were your roles during the day as far as interaction with children, with parents, kind of your duties during the day?
Primarily, my responsibility is with the client liaisons, with the parents. I help to ensure, if there's an issue or concern, we help to manage that. We also supervise the day-to-day child development operations, center visits, classroom visits, making sure the teachers are trained, and then walking the facility to make sure everybody's okay.
At the Home Depot, at the Little Apron Academy, do you guys have phones, like landline phones that people can call to get in touch with either a main line or another room?
We do. We have phones in each classroom, and then we have phones in all of the administrative offices as well at both administrative desks.
Would the defendant ever talk to you guys and say that he was running behind?
Yes, he would call the main line, and then we can transfer calls into the classroom. And I believe occasionally he called into the classroom to let the teachers know he would be running late or to save breakfast.
Now, as far as what you witnessed well, let me ask you this. Who would have the most interaction overall with the parents of Cooper? Would it be the student, the teachers, or you?
It would primarily be the teachers, and then the administrative desks.
Okay. So, as far as you can remember, who usually brought Cooper to daycare in the morning?
Ross normally brought Cooper in.
Do you remember how, like, around what times he would bring them in or bring Cooper in as opposed to Leanna?
Usually around 8:45, 8:30, 8:45. If it was going to be later, he would call and let us know that.
And were there times where he was later, much later, and would call?
Yes, there were times.
Now, do you remember with the times that you would see him bring Cooper in, do you remember if Cooper was usually asleep, usually awake, or something else?
By the time I saw Cooper, he was normally waking up. Sometimes he would walk in on his own volition.
Okay. And the older he got, did that affect whether he was more likely to be awake or not?
I would think so. I typically saw him walking in with Dad.
Now, in your conversations and with the defendant and witnessing them come in and things like that, do you know, did he ever feed Cooper before he brought him to daycare?
I think there were some occasions, yes.
Okay. Now, do you guys have breakfast there at Little Apron Academy?
We do. We serve breakfast.
Okay. And what time do y'all serve breakfast?
Normally, it's anywhere from 8 o'clock, 8:30, and then depending on the children, it might run a little bit later than that.
And is that free breakfast?
That is free breakfast.
Okay. Well, not free because they have to pay
Right,
tuition,
it's
right?
part of their tuition, yes.
Okay. And how much was Cooper's tuition?
About 8:40, 8:45.
So as far as what you knew about the defendant, his relationship with his child, and with his wife and things like that, was your sole basis for what he portrayed to you at Little Apron Academy, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show defense counsel to mark for identification purposes the State's Exhibit 13. 313, not, no, I'm not scaring y'all, we're not going back. Okay, 313. Okay, and this gives him showing you State's Exhibit 313. Well, first of all, Judge, I'm going to tender State's Exhibit 313 pursuant to OCGA, 24.803 and 24.902 as a certified record of business records of the Little Apron Academy. These have been provided to the defense to review.
What did you say?
Yeah, I'm going to object just on the foundation at this time and ask if I could just reserve to make further objection if necessary.
I've read about the foundation.
Okay.
Very late one.
Oh, Judge, I'm sorry. This actually, we don't have to lay it.
Oh,
It's on the certification, yes, Judge.
All right. I'm going to allow whatever objection.
Now,
Did you want to do a vote or what?
Not this time.
That's fine.
and Ms. Gibson, did you create these records or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Did we go through it and look through just at some of the tracking sheets as far as, well, let me rephrase this. Some of the badge access sheets as far as times that Cooper was brought to daycare by the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And just having generally reviewed those, did those corroborate your opinion from what you viewed that the defendant was usually the one to bring in Cooper, and also the times at which he would usually bring him in?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And I'll go into those records with another witness, so don't worry, we ain't going through all that paper.
Okay.
Let me ask you one question, though, about these legal size pieces of paper. Okay. Showing you from this stack of documents what it says transition tracking sheet 5114.
Yes,
Do you recognize this?
I do.
Okay, and what is that, and what is the purpose of that?
So the tracking sheet tracks the child's drop-off and pick-up as well as their movement throughout the day. So you can account for every single child at any particular time throughout the day.
And is it actually handwritten in there, in addition to your badge access, things like that, time of arrival, time departing?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And who actually fills those times in? Is it the employee or the parent?
The teachers fill it in.
And where it says notes, it looks like it has either, Nana or mom or dad. Is that particular to when they arrive, or is it them signing out who picks them up to leave?
It's when they pick up.
Okay. And I'm just going to show the jury generally what that looks like. is we talked a little bit about drop off, things like that, what you encounter, who you encounter, things like that when you arrive at Little Apron Academy. Before we came up, did I show you kind of just a couple of pause videos that would assist you in showing the jury the entrance and then how you come into Little Apron Academy?
Yes.
And I've already shown defense counsel what I marked for state's exhibit, for identification purposes, state's exhibit 312, just for demonstrative purposes. So, ma'am, looking at state's exhibit 312, is this the disc that I used to show you the video that would help you demonstrate or talk to the jury about the entrances and things like that?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Your Honor, I would tender state's exhibit 312 at this time only for that purpose.
With the understanding that 312 contains the entirety of what was received from Little Aprons, everything's on there, we don't object to it. That is correct, Mr. Warren, right?
Yes, well, this and amongst other discs and things like that, yes. Thank you. All right. Ms. Gibson, looking at this pause video where it says second floor, front lobby, center, what is this area that's depicted here?
So that's one of the entrances to the building. There's a double door, so once a parent badges, they come through the front door, they badge in, and then the doors automatically open.
Okay. And that, you mean the second door behind here? The first one is you're coming in from the outside that you would encounter?
Yes.
Okay, so you have to use your access badge to swipe into it.
The first door you can come in automatically. It's the doors that you see right here.
Okay.
There's a box on the wall there. You swipe your badge, and then those doors will open for you.
Okay. Now, are there occasions where somebody shows up with their child or shows up to pick up their child and they can get in without swiping?
Yes, they have to ring the buzzer, and one of the administrative assistants has to buzz them in, and then they have to sign in on the log at the front.
Okay. Now, as you're walking through here, if you come in this entrance, what parking lot is out there? Where is that parking lot?
So that parking lot is more of the visitors' parking lot. It's adjacent to what they call the B building or the C building for Home Depot. That's not the main entrance.
Okay. And let me go to we'll use this thing so I'll break the screen. Now showing the second floor front lobby. And looking at this pause video here, what do you see? And coming from the entrance that we saw, where is this as in relation to the entrance what we just saw?
So that's directly to the right of the entrance. At that point, we had a security station there at the front as well. And then to the right, further past the right, that's the infant wing of the building.
So over here would be the entrance that we saw?
Yes.
Okay, and as you come in here, if you walk past that, where would Toddler Room 5 be in relation to this photograph?
So the toddler wing is on the left side of the video, so not that side there towards you.
Okay, coming that way.
To the left.
All right, thank you. I believe that's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
Ms. Exam.
How many kids typically do you have enrolled at Little Aprons?
We have about 278 children, and then with school agers, 326.
Wow. 278 plus 326?
Yes. Oh, 278 plus another 44.
Okay.
Or to 48, actually.
So y'all got a lot of kids.
We do.
And you got a lot of parents.
We do.
But you knew Ross.
Yes. I know most of our families.
And you knew Leanna.
Yes.
You described Ross as gregarious.
Yes.
And the fact of the matter is, everybody at Little Aprons knew Ross. Isn't that right?
Yes.
He was in there a lot.
Yes.
He was kind of a big personality when you would come in,
Yes, that's true.
cracking jokes.
Yes.
Did he? Do you recall that Ross would occasionally pop in at lunchtime
Yes.
to check on Cooper,
Yes.
just to get to spend a little extra time with him during the day?
Yes.
A lot of dads didn't do that, did they?
Some do. Some do.
And Ross was one of those that did.
Yes.
Do you recall that sometimes y'all would have special occasions, in particular, little parades?
Yes.
And, of course, Cooper was in the baby group and then in the toddler group.
Yes.
And y'all would put the children, I'm assuming you still do this, put them in little push carts, like we have at church, and kind of push them through the building.
Yes.
Okay. And Ross was always there for those kind of activities, wasn't he?
Yes, for many of those, very present.
And do you recall occasions where Ross would dress up in costume to come in?
I do remember a time, yes.
Okay. What would he dress up as?
Gosh, I don't remember, but we definitely knew when Ross was in the building.
And you don't have any knowledge that he was forced or required to do that?
Oh, no.
He's the kind of guy that would volunteer to do that, and did volunteer.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to show you something real quick. I'm going to show you two photographs that are in sleeves, and they're marked Defendants Exhibits 19 and 20.
Okay.
See if you can understand those.
That's Cooper.
You've got a great smile, by the way.
Yes, and that's Ross and Cooper, definitely.
Okay. The two pictures that I've just showed you, Defendants 19 and 20, did those fairly and accurately depict Ross and Cooper at Little Aprons?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to move 19 and 20. No touch.
Okay.
I'm not going to have you stand up, but what I'm going to do is first show Defendants Exhibit 19. I'm going to show this to the jury, okay? And if you could tell the jury what they're looking at here.
So they're looking at, let me see the back a little bit. They're looking at, trying to see which exit, that looks like it's the bridge entrance, which is where it's located near the parking deck. And Ross is standing in front of the kiosk that's at the bridge entrance.
You've been doing this a long time, haven't you?
Yes.
You see all kind of parents.
Yes.
Some are involved, some are not.
That's true.
It's fair to say that Ross was in the category of dads who were involved.
Yes.
And it's Exhibit 20. Orient to where that is.
Oh, yes. It looks like it's the cafeteria and the SSC, and that might have been looks like one of the parades.
Okay. And that's Ross and Cooper?
It is, yes.
Okay. Can you tell me who normally works the front desk when you come in, first come into the building?
So we have administrative assistants that work at each desk, and they're manned from 15 minutes before the center opens till 15 minutes after the center closes.
Okay. Which employees are normally there? What are their names?
Now, or
Well, at that time.
gosh, we had, I believe, Teresa, Terrell, perhaps Shahida, and I don't remember who else was on at that time.
You said Teresa?
Teresa, Terrell, Dudley,
Dudley?
Shahida Stibbins might have been there at the time.
Okay.
And if any administrative assistant is out, then someone else from the admin team would cover.
All right. I want to ask you about a couple of other names. Back in 2014, in June, you had Azure Hawkins that worked there?
Yes.
And was Azure actually one of Cooper's primary teachers?
Yes, she was.
What about a Karima Fletcher?
Yes, she was there as well.
Right. And was she at one time one of Cooper's primary teachers?
Yes.
And Kenyatta Patrick?
Kiata. Yes.
Kiana Patrick?
Yes,
She was there at that time?
she was.
Okay. And would these employees have had perhaps a little more direct interaction with Cooper than you would have as the administrator?
Yes.
And if they were assigned to Cooper's room, is it fair to say that they would also have had interaction with Ross as well?
Absolutely, yes.
You indicated that, I think what you said was by the time he got back to you, Cooper was usually awake.
Yes.
Where was your office in relation to the front of the building?
So when you walk through the visitor's entrance, my office is directly to the left.
Okay. You couldn't actually see the front door from where you were?
I can see the front door, yes.
Were you shown any videos of of Ross and Cooper coming into the building?
Just what we saw here with the front door entrance.
Okay. And the DA's office showed you that?
Yeah, just the front door.
Okay. Did you see any videos of Ross bringing Cooper inside the building?
No, I think up to the door, but that was it.
Okay. So you haven't gone back and looked at videos to see how many times Ross was carrying him in the morning?
No.
And how many times he was walking in?
No.
And you would agree there were both?
Yes.
Sometimes Cooper would be fast asleep and sometimes he would be walking.
Oh, yes.
You indicated, just in a very general sense, that the parents were appropriate, mom and dad both.
Yes.
You didn't have any problem with these parents?
No.
Okay. In the time that Cooper was with y'all, none of your teachers ever had to come to you and indicate to you that they had concerns about Cooper's welfare, that he was being mistreated or neglected, or that they suspected anything of that nature?
No.
If they had come to you, that would have been a real surprise to you, wouldn't it, based on what you observed?
Yes.
You indicated that, I believe what you said was, you said on some occasions he would feed Cooper breakfast. And I take it what you meant by that is you're aware there were occasions when Ross would actually feed Cooper before he dropped him off.
Yes, a lot of our parents do sometimes.
Okay. And you don't know how often or how many occasions, just you know that sometimes that happened.
Yes.
And I believe you indicated that if Ross wanted y'all to save breakfast, that he will call ahead and say, hey, I'm going to be running late. I want you to save breakfast for me.
Yes.
was something in those records that, there was a note in there that you were headed that said DELK, D-E-L-K. Do you know what that stands for?
Delk?
Uh-huh.
No, I only know a Delk Road, but that would be it.
Okay. Okay, sort of messed this paperwork up here that was State's Exhibit 313. I want to hand you a page. Let me show you what I'm going to hand her, Ross's login. Virginia, yeah, okay. I'm going to hand you a page. You've identified all this, I think, right?
Yes.
All right, so do you know what you're looking at here on that
Yes,
page?
this is like the Bright Star login report.
All right, and in the top right-hand corner, are there some initials there?
Here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
What is that?
JRHLAA.
Let's see. Okay. JRH, perhaps Justin Ross here?
Yes.
LAA?
For the Labor Academy.
Okay. So does this look like it would be login detail for Ross in the month of June?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I want you to look at the login for June 2nd.
Okay.
What time did Ross check Cooper in on that day?
8:36.
8:36.
Yes.
So if we have evidence already in this case, a receipt that Ross went to Chick-fil-A at 8:57, you would agree that according to your logs, he's already dropped Cooper off before he went to Chick-fil-A?
Yes.
I want you to take a look at that log for June 6th.
I don't see June 6th here.
And if you don't see June the 6th, does that indicate to you that Ross did not check him in on that morning?
Yes. He was not checked in.
So if we already have evidence in this case that Ross went to Chick-fil-A that morning at 9:07, he went to Chick-fil-A and didn't take Cooper at all that day.
Or Cooper's not checked in here.
Okay. What does that mean?
So sometimes parents will not clock in, maybe they're running late, or they forget to clock in, or the system might be down.
Do we have any other records that indicate that he was there on the 6th?
If we did, it would be the tracking sheet,
Okay.
because if the system is down, the teachers are still tracking in the classroom.
Take a look at the 11th, June the 11th.
Okay.
What time was Cooper checked in on June the 11th?
8:43.
And so if we have evidence in the case already that Ross went to Chick-fil-A at 9:01 in the morning, you would agree that your records indicate that Ross had already dropped Cooper off before he went to Chick-fil-A?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. sort of brightened up every time you talk about Cooper.
Yes,
You loved him.
absolutely. I love every single one of them.
Okay. Like family.
Yes.
Thank you.
One follow-up question. I know you were asked questions about how the defendant appeared, how he appeared to love his son, and do things like that, and things like that. In your career as a daycare person, have you ever been surprised by behavior where people portrayed themselves as one way, and then later you found out it was completely different?
Yes.
That's all I have.
When you were testifying a moment ago about Ross's personality and the way that he loved and interacted with his son, that wasn't a one-time observation, was it?
No.
That was an observation over the course of 18 months or so.
Yes.
You don't have, well, thank you.
Nothing further, Judge.
You're free to go. Next witness.
They would call Kiata Patrick.
Just sit right there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name and spelling it so the court reporter gets it?
Yes. Good morning. My name is Kiata Patrick. The spelling of my name is Keyatapatrick.
I'm going to close this door for you. All right. Miss Patrick, where do you live?
I live in Latonia, Georgia,
Okay. And where do you currently work?
at Little Apron Academy.
All right. What's your job there?
I am currently an early childhood teacher
How long have you worked there at Little Apron?
for 3 years.
And have you always worked in that job that you're in right now, or have you worked in a different capacity there?
I've worked in that job since I've been there.
And they've already heard about Little Apron Academy and what it is and where it is and things like that. So tell the jury a little bit about what your job is and what your duties are on kind of a daily basis.
My job is I'm a toddler teacher, so I come in and I welcome the kids in, and we have small group. We start off with breakfast, and we go through a daily routine of welcoming the kids, singing to the kids, and interacting with the children.
Back in June of 2014, did you work with Toddler Room 5 with any children in there?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And tell the jury what your involvement was and how often you worked with Toddler Room 5 and what you did.
I came in March of 2014, and I worked with Edger Hawkins and Michelle Gray. And I came in as a teacher support. I was, my role at that time was called program support. So when I came in to help, I filled in the role of Michelle Gray because she was out for a little while. So I came in and I took on the responsibilities of a primary teacher, greeting the parents, interacting with the children. I was the active teacher, so I helped the teacher. I'm going to help the children. If they needed help with anything, I helped teach them how to use a spoon, how to use a cup. I taught them how to, we started potty training, so we would teach them how to start using the potty, go from diapers to the potty.
During the time you worked there, I guess you started in March of 2014, did you know a child in that classroom named Cooper Harris?
I did.
Okay. Could you describe Cooper as far as health-wise? Did he appear to be a healthy boy?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell the jury a little bit about him and how he had progressed over the months leading up to June 18th?
Cooper was a fun-loving child. I was with Cooper from the infant room, and like I said, I was a program support teacher at that time. So I was able to see his growth from not walking and crawling on the floor to walking. I was able to see him begin to talking and begin to start transitioning from diapers to using the potty.
And was all this, the talking more often and things like that, was that in the months leading up to June 18th?
Yes, it was in the months leading up to June 18th. He started talking actually more in late May, and so the early part of June. I was very excited because he was talking, he was able to tell us, he wanted more. We was able to have more conversations, interactive conversations, and actually the day before that day, when he woke up from a nap, he looked at me and he said, I need a diaper. And I was so excited because I'm like, okay, you're using words, you're making sentences. And so I was like, if you can tell me that, you can come and get on the potty. So I was just so excited just to see his developmental growth.
And as far as size, did he start off kind of little and then grow a lot toward the end?
He did. He started hitting a growth spur because he was very petite, but he started stretching out more leading up to that day.
Now, did you, during the time there, obviously, you come into contact with lots of parents, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know his parents?
I did.
Okay. And do you remember their names?
Yes, Leanna Harris and Ross Harris.
And by everything you saw, did they appear to have a normal family life?
Yes.
Okay. And did the defendant appear, as far as he portrayed himself there, as far as you saw, did he appear to be a loving father?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And was he, I guess, active with his child and things like that?
Yes, he was very active with his child.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, anytime Home Depot would have any type of event or something special going on, they had like a homework workshop, or Ross would always come down and he would grab Cooper and he would take him around and he would just spend quality time with him, interacting with him during the activities.
Now, during this time while you were there, did you ever have any involvement with the defendant or Leanna or Cooper outside of daycare or anything like that, or was it strictly at Little Apron Academy?
It was strictly at Little Apron Academy.
Okay. So if there were things going on in the family, in the marriage, things like that, would you have had any idea what was going on?
No.
Okay. When Cooper got to daycare in the mornings, who would drop him off, usually?
Ross dropped him off most of the time.
Now, at Little Apron Academy, do you guys serve breakfast?
Yes.
When Cooper would be dropped off, did he eat breakfast there? Did he eat breakfast before he came? Or tell the jury generally how that went with Cooper.
Most of the time, Cooper ate breakfast at the daycare. If Ross would be running late, he would call and tell either I or another co-teacher that to hold breakfast, that they're running late. There were some occasions that he came after breakfast, but he would always call and say, you know, we either slept in late and he ate at home.
On June 18th, 2014, did he call?
No.
Were there times that he would stop beforehand, that before he got there, and dropping off Cooper, and got Chick-fil-A before that?
Yes.
Okay. And tell the jury how you know that.
He would call and say that they slept in late and he's already eaten. And some mornings, whoever answered the phone, he would say we stopped at Chick-fil-A. And it was on one occasions that he brought me and my co-teacher Chick-fil-A to the classroom.
So he actually stopped and got Chick-fil-A with Cooper beforehand and brought it to y'all.
Yes.
Okay, now this, hold on one second. The Chick-fil-A, is there a Chick-fil-A close by the Little Apron Academy?
Yes, it is.
If I showed you a map that has Little Apron Academy on it and the Chick-fil-A, would you be able to recognize that?
Yes.
I'll show you what's been previously marked and identified and admitted as State's Exhibit 230. Just looking at State's Exhibit 230, turn this around real quick without the jury seeing it, so you can just lay a foundation here. Looking at that, do you see the Little Apron Academy on that map?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And do you see the Chick-fil-A on this map?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Would that help you explain to the jury, you know, where it is on here and in relation to Chick-fil-A to the Little Apron Academy?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm just going to publish this real quick. And Ms. Patrick, I'll ask you to step down for a second. Yes, please. And Ms. Patrick, you just step right over here. Okay. All right. Looking at State's Exhibit 230, maybe turn a little bit sideways so the people in the corner can see you. Look right there. What is that building right there?
That is Little Apron Academy
Okay.
in the Home Depot Center.
Okay. And the big building, is that Home Depot corporate?
Yes, it's the Home Depot corporate office.
And were y'all basically a building right there with Home Depot corporate?
Yes, it's a connecting building.
Now this, the street that you're on, the road that you're on that goes this way, what road is that?
It's Paces Ferry Road.
And what is this building right here that I'm pointing at? It's got the little pointer to it.
You're pointing to the Chick-fil-A building.
Okay. Is that the Chick-fil-A you're talking about that you're familiar with in this area?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever gone to this Chick-fil-A?
Yes, I have.
Stopped before work and gotten food?
Yes, I have.
Okay. About how long does it take you to get there to Little Apron Academy?
In the mornings with traffic, it might take me about roughly 2 to 3 minutes to get there.
Okay. Thank you. You can have your seat. Do you remember generally what times the defendant would bring Cooper in, usually versus running late?
He would usually bring him in between 8:30 and 8:45.
And when he was running late or things like that, when would he start calling if he was going to be running after that?
Well, he would call about 8:40 because we usually would stop serving breakfast at 8:45.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you a few questions about the day of June 18, 2014. Were you working that day?
Yes.
Okay. And that day, did Cooper come to daycare?
No.
later that afternoon, sometime out after 4:30, did you see his mother arrive?
Yes, I did.
And without going into what she said or anything like that, did you speak with her?
Yes, I did.
And speaking with her, did you attempt to try to locate or contact the defendant?
Yes.
Were you ever successful in doing so?
No.
Now, at some point, when the defendant would drop off Cooper in the mornings, did he take any photographs?
Yes.
Okay, and did he say why he would take photographs?
No, he never said why he took photographs.
Was it something he did every day?
It was something he did every day until roughly 2 weeks before June 18th.
And when he took these photos, when he stopped about 2 weeks before this, did he say anything about why he stopped?
Yes, I noticed that he had stopped taking photographs of Cooper. And by me working with him since he was an infant, I just thought it was kind of strange that he stopped. So I asked him, I said, you don't take pictures anymore? And he said no, because he's getting older.
That's all I have, Judge.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good. Are you a little bit nervous? It's okay. You're supposed to be. I won't bite. You talked to a detective back in July of 2014. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Detective Stoddard?
Yes.
Okay. And was that was at Little Aprons?
Yes.
Did he tell you that he had recorded that conversation?
I believe so. I can't recall, but I know on one occasion that did happen.
Did you have a chance to listen to that recording by any chance to sort of refresh your memory?
No, I haven't listened to it.
All right. A couple of things. Do you remember you went over with Detective Stoddard the fact that Ross and Leanna seem like great parents?
Yes.
And that's your testimony today as well. Ross was always smiling, cracking jokes, happy-go-lucky.
Yes.
And we've heard from your boss already. It's fair to say everybody at Little Aprons knew Ross.
Yes.
Okay. And that's just because he was a very kind of big personality, and he was there a lot, wasn't he?
Yes, it was.
Okay. In the mornings, were you actually in the room, or were you out front?
In the mornings when he dropped off?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I was in the room.
Okay. And Ross wouldn't drop and go, would he? He'd actually come into the room and spend a few moments there kind of getting Cooper settled?
Yes, he would. You never had an occasion to make any sort of report indicating that you had any suspicion that Cooper was being mistreated by his parents? No.
Okay.
No indication.
In fact, you told Detective Stoddard that, if anything, Cooper was a little spoiled.
Yes.
Okay. All parents aren't the same.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, you've been doing this kind of work a while.
Yes.
Okay. And it's fair to say, during the time that you had an opportunity to observe the relationship between Ross and Cooper, and y'all knew him as Ross, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see Ross from there?
Yes.
Okay. He fell into the category of a pretty involved dad.
Yes, he did.
Okay. In fact, he wasn't just there in the morning. Sometimes he'd come back during the day.
Yes.
Right. And it wasn't every week, was it?
No, it wasn't every week, but he would come throughout the day, sometimes to check on him. And like I stated before, when Home Depot or Little Apron had a special activity going on, he would always come down and interact with his son.
What kind of special activities are you talking about?
Throughout the year, Little Apron, they host like 4th of July parades or like a Halloween parade, and we have what we call this Main Street at Home Depot. And so parents can come down and either walk with the class or they can take their child and they can parade them around Home Depot on the Main Street where everybody's there gathering to see what is going on. And then, like I said before, they had like a homeowner's workshop where they was introducing new products, and he came down. I can't remember what exactly tool it was, but he was dressed up like a tool, and he grabbed Cooper from the room, and he took him around and showed him off. They took pictures in the center, and I believe he might have took him over to Home Depot as well.
And when you say he, you're talking about Ross?
Yes, Ross.
Okay. And when you were asked by Mr. Boring, I mean, you kind of went out of your way to say Ross actually made an effort to be involved.
Yes, he was very much so involved with his son.
Let me show you something, if I could. Brian, am I at 21? Yeah. I'm going to show you what I've marked as Defendants Exhibit 21. See if you can recognize that.
Yes.
You recognize your name on that?
Yes.
Okay. What is that you're looking at?
I'm looking at the homeowner's workshop where they had the tools. Yes. And Cooper is in the picture.
And is that part of the email that Little Apron's email?
Yes, it is. It's what we call What in the World. And it just informs the parents on the different activities that goes on throughout the day so they can see what the child is learning. And this is one of the activities. Ross came down that day and he was dressed up as a tool and he took a picture with Cooper.
Is the date on here by any chance? Yeah.
It's 7/31/2013.
And at that time, Cooper was in your room, July of 2013?
Yes, that was actually in the infant room.
Okay. And you would agree this fairly and accurately depicts that email and that photo that you testified about?
Yes, it does.
I'm going to 21.
Okay.
Now these pictures are kind of small, but the one on the upper left hand right there, is that who you're saying is Cooper?
Yes, that's Cooper right there.
That's Ross?
Yes, that's Ross.
Who is this? Is that one of the teachers?
No, that's not one of the teachers. Not that I can recall. I haven't seen her before.
Okay. Ross didn't complain about having to be down there during the day dressed as the tool.
No, I didn't.
In fact, it's pretty clear he loved doing it, didn't he?
Yes, it was.
Do you remember this one?
Yes,
Okay. You're smiling. Okay. Miss Cooper, don't you?
I do. I really do. He was a great kid.
All right. So we see that Cooper's a little bit older in that picture, and Ross is dressed as a different tool.
Yes.
Okay. So you can remember at least two occasions where Ross came down there, spent some time with y'all and with Cooper, dressed as the tool. A different tool.
Yes, a different tool.
number 20. It looks like that's in the cafeteria. Do you remember this? Is that the Halloween?
I believe it's the Halloween parade.
Okay.
Yes.
And is this actually in y'all's building, or have you moved into a different building here?
That's actually in the Home Depot building. It's what they call the SSC.
Okay. And Cooper's dressed as some sort of little monkey or something?
Yes.
Are you personal friends with Ross and Leanna?
No, not outside of work.
You did call to check on Leanna, and Leanna was Cooper's mom.
Yes.
Right. You
Yes,
called
I
to check
did.
on her later on.
I called to check on her later on just to see how she was holding up with the events that happened.
And she was having a hard time, wasn't she?
Yes, she was having a hard time.
I believe you told Detective Stoddard that she would cry some. She was hysterical some. Disoriented.
That was actually on the day that she came up to the job
Okay.
to look for him.
It was pretty intense, wasn't it?
Yes, it was very intense at that moment.
You were asked about if it appeared that there was a normal family life, and you indicated there was.
Yes.
Parents usually don't come in and talk to you about their sex life, do they?
No. No.
That would be, well, it doesn't happen, does it?
Some parents are more open than others, but on a normal basis, no.
It would be unusual.
Very unusual, yes.
And even though you're very intimately involved with these families sometimes because you're caring for their child, they don't come in and tell you about what's going on in the bedroom or whatever their intimacy issues are in their life, do they?
No.
And Ross certainly didn't come in and unload that sort of stuff on you, did he?
No, he did not.
You said that there was a time that Ross actually went to Chick-fil-A and got breakfast for y'all.
Yes, he did on one occasion.
Okay. Just one time?
Just one time.
All right. And I did not understand, was he just bringing biscuits for the teachers or for the kids as well?
He brought it just for the teachers. He didn't bring it for the children, just for the teachers.
All right. Just like somebody bringing donuts in the morning. It was just something nice he did one day.
It was something nice he did one day. Well, he called and he said that he was running late and that he was stopping by Chick-fil-A. So my co-teacher, Miss Adger, she said, well, since you're there, do you mind if you would bring us, the teachers, Chick-fil-A? And he did.
Oh, okay. And you don't have any idea which Chick-fil-A he went to that morning, do you?
No, I don't have any idea what Chick-fil-A he went to that morning.
All right. Let's see. And you indicated that Ross would take photos of Cooper in the morning.
Yes, he would.
Remember that?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't. You didn't say anything to Detective Stoddard about that, did you?
I don't recall.
Okay. Don't recall if you talked to him about that?
No, I don't.
But it's something you remember now.
Yes.
Okay, and you said, let's see, did he have a camera with him?
No, he took it on his phone.
On his phone?
Yes.
Okay. Would he, did you see if he would text it to his wife?
I'm not sure if he texted to his wife, but I just know once Cooper got settled that he would take a picture.
Okay. Once he got settled?
Yes.
All right. But he took it on his phone?
Yes, he took it on his phone.
So if he took it on his phone, there's every reason to believe there would be a record of exactly when he took those pictures and when he stopped, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it's fair to say as Cooper got a little older and Ross would bring him back to the room, he obviously became more mobile as he got older.
Yes, he did.
And sometimes when they came walking in the door, Ross would be holding them by the hand and they'd walk in together.
Sometimes he did. Sometimes they would walk in together, but a lot of times he was carrying him on his shoulders.
Okay. Sometimes he was carried. Sometimes he'd be asleep.
Sometimes, yes.
And as Cooper got older, Ross put him down, he'd hit the ground running, right?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So it's fair to say it might have become a little more of an ordeal to corner him to get a picture. Is that fair to say?
I can't necessarily say that because a lot of times he would take it at the table, or if he would start playing with the toy, he would ask him to look up and he would take the picture then.
And you certainly wouldn't have any way of knowing if the picture taken fizzled out because of that was a conversation that was had between Ross and his wife. You wouldn't have any way of knowing
No,
that.
I don't have any way of knowing that. I just know that I noticed that he had stopped taking pictures, and I noticed it over several days, and I just decided to ask because I knew that was something that they had done in the past. So I was just curious to why he stopped doing it.
When was Cooper in your room starting at what age?
I don't know the actual start date of when he entered Little Apron Academy. When I joined Little Apron Academy, I entered the infant room, and he was already in the infant room.
He was already in the infant room at that time?
Yes. And then after he turned 1, I do remember in September of 2013 that he entered Toddler 5.
Okay. And you were in that room with Michelle for a while and with Azure?
Yes, I came over to Toddler 5 in March of 2014 with Azure and Michelle.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as Defendants Exhibit 22. See if you recognize that.
I do.
All right, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at it's called What in the World. I'm looking at a Spanish activity, and I'm looking at a creative dance activity.
Is that the email that from June the 18th that Cooper died?
Yes.
All right, your name's on there.
Yes, it is.
All right, I'll move number 22.
No objection.
Thank you. All right. All right, so this email from June the 18th, the day Cooper died, you would agree that Cooper's not mentioned anywhere in that email?
No, he's not.
There's not a picture of him?
No, it's not.
And of course, earlier we looked at an email from a year earlier, July 2013.
Yes.
Okay. And you don't have any knowledge of how many times Cooper may have been mentioned, if at all, in that year, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay. You would agree that these emails, number 20, 21 and 22, they don't mention which students are actually there and which are not.
No, that some of them, can I say it one more time?
In other words, it doesn't say, hey, the following 4 students aren't here today, we missed them.
No, it doesn't say that. Depending on the activity and what the child does, we do mention the child's name, but we don't mention it every day.
And you don't mention absences.
No, we do not mention absences.
In other words, the fact that Cooper wasn't there on June the 18th, it's not in the email. It doesn't say,
No, it's
hey,
not
we
in
missed Cooper today, hope to see you tomorrow.
No.
Thank you so much.
Nothing further.
You're free to go. What time for when we recess? Let's recess until quarter after. Flush your notepads, keep an open mind, don't discuss the case. Enjoy your break.
Just let your cell phone down.
How many witnesses do you have, Mr. Cook?
We have 3, Judge.
We're in recess, y'all.
Thank you.
Quarter after.